Hi Nursery, Mrs. Starkey here. Okay, so can you remember what our new story is? That's right, Tom Thumb. Okay, now I'm going to read you this story. What have you noticed on here? What's this a picture of? Yeah, it's like a mushroom, isn't it? And then there's a boy. Could you lay underneath the mushroom? No, you're far too big. So this boy must be really, really small. Should we find out? Let's have a look. Okay. A poor woodcutter sat by the fire one evening while his wife sat across from him spinning. He said, "What a sad thing it is that we have no children. We live too quietly. A child would cheer us up." "Yes," said his wife. "I'd even be glad if one was the size of my thumb." Sometime later they had a son, and sure enough, he was no bigger than a thumb. They named him Tom Thumb, and they loved him dearly and gave him the best of care. That's why he is underneath the mushroom, because put your thumb up. That is how big the little boy was. He was so small, wasn't he? Look, he sat on a horse's head. Time passed. Tom never grew any larger, but he was strong and healthy. He became a quick, bright child who did well at everything he tried. One morning, when his father was getting ready to go into the forest to cut some wood, he said, "I wish I had someone to bring me the horse and cart later on." "Leave the horse to me," said Tom. "I can bring him." "Very well," replied his father. That afternoon, Tom climbed up and sat between the horse's ears. "Giddy up," he called to the horse in a big, brave voice, and away they went together. Two strangers were passing through the woods and saw the horse galloping. They heard Tom calling to it to turn right or left, but there was no one to be seen. "That's very strange," they said. "Let's follow the cart and see what happens when it stops." Now remember, they couldn't see him because he was so small, so they only saw the horse. They didn't see Tom, did they? Soon the men came to the spot where Tom's father was waiting, and they hid behind a tree. "Here I am, father," Tom called. "Didn't I drive the horse well?" "Yes, you're a fine boy," said the woodcutter as he lifted Tom to his shoulder. "We can make a fortune with that little old fellow," said one of the men. "If we showed him in the towns for money, people would pay to see him. Let's buy him." "Hey there," he said to the woodcutter. "Here's a fine piece of gold. Sell us the boy. We take good care of him." "No," said the woodcutter. "He is all my wife and I have, and we love him with all our hearts." But Tom whispered in his father's ear, "Take the gold and don't worry about me. I'll be home before you know it." "Well, all right then," said the woodcutter, and he took the gold. One of the men put Tom on the rim of his hat, and they all said their goodbyes. Tom's father went one way with the horse and the wood and the piece of gold. The two men went the other way with Tom riding on the hat. After a while, Tom called, "Let me down." "No," said the men, "you'll just run away." "But it's important business," said Tom. So the men put Tom down on the grass. Quick as a wink, he ran into a mouse hole. "Goodbye, gentlemen," he called. The men looked everywhere, but they could not see Tom. They poked in the hole, but he stayed safely out of reach. "We've been tricked," they said angrily, and they went on their way. When Tom came out of the hole, the moon was up. Travelling at night is risky, Tom said. So he curled up in a small snail shell that lay in a field nearby. And there he is. Look, he's in the snail shell. That's how small he is. Just as he was falling asleep, he heard two men passing. That rich man has gold and silver and jewels, but how can we get in to steal them? Asked one man. I can help you, shouted Tom. Whose voice is that? Where are you? Asked the thieves. Here in the grass. When the thieves saw Tom, they laughed. How could a little fellow like you help us? They said. I can slip into the house and hand out to you whatever you want, said Tom. All right, it's worth a try, said the thieves. Come along. But when Tom got inside the house, he called out in a loud voice, What do you want? Shall I hand out everything? Shh, said the thieves, not so loud. Tom pretended not to understand. Hold out your hands, he shouted. Here's some gold. The maid heard the noise and came out with a lamp. Quickly the thieves ran away, and Tom, pleased with himself, tiptoed out to the barn. There he went to sleep in a pile of soft hay, thinking he'd be home in no time for dinner the next day. In the morning, the maid came to feed the cows. She picked up the pile of hay where Tom was sleeping. When he woke up, he was in the cow's mouth. The cow swallowed and Tom slid into her stomach. He screamed, but the maid had already left to do the baking. Later, the maid came back to milk the cow. Imagine her surprise when she heard a voice inside crying, Let me out! Let me out! She ran to her master. The cow is talking, she said. Her master came to listen. Again, a voice called, Let me out! Let me out! The master turned pale with fright. It's an evil spirit, he said. We must kill the cow. So he butchered the cow and threw her stomach into the rubbish heap with Tom still inside. Tom twisted and turned, trying to work his way out of the stomach. Just as he was beginning to sniff fresh air, a starving wolf came by. The wolf pounced on the stomach and gulped it down. But still, Tom did not lose courage. Dear friend, called Tom from inside the wolf, I know where you can find the most delicious food. Where is that? Asked the wolf. The woodcutter's house, said Tom. I'll tell you how to get there. When they came to the house, Tom said, Go to the narrow window in the back and force yourself through. That's where the pantry is. The wolf pushed his way through the narrow window and ate until he was stuffed full. But when he tried to leave, his stomach had grown so big and fat that he could not get out. Now Tom began to scream as loud as he could. Help! Help! Be quiet, said the wolf. You'll wake everybody up. But Tom kept screaming. Before long, the woodcutter and his wife heard the noise and came with an axe. Upon seeing the wolf, the woodcutter shouted, I'll get you, you thief, and he swung the axe back for the kill. Father, father, yelled Tom, I'm in the wolf's belly. Don't worry, I won't hurt you, the woodcutter replied, and he struck the wolf dead with one blow on its head. Then he cut the wolf open and took Tom out. Thank heaven you're back, he said. Where on earth have you been? I've been seeing the world, said Tom. Now I am happy to breathe the fresh air again. I've been inside a mouse hole, a snail shell, a cow's stomach and a wolf's belly. And now I'll stay right here with you. And we will never give you away again for all the gold in the world, said his parents as they hugged and kissed their child. Oh, I hope you enjoyed that, Nursery. And that was our new story called Tom Thumb. And I'll see you again soon. Bye.